that's a little disgruntled, it would seem, the polls would indicate and such, for Barack Obama right now, and that would be the young vote, who came out so strong. I mean, I was on college campuses. It was overwhelming how, like, Barack Obama was a rock star, and independents. And then there's the Hispanic vote, too. We have no idea which way they'll swing, but chances are many of them who are Democrats might go Republican. So should the president start making a move toward those groups now, either in fundraising or in going out, as Herman Cain is, and meeting and greeting these folks?
Well, I think you're completely right, Jamie. I think we've already seen some movements on the president to work towards not only the Latino vote, but also the independents and also the young people. But I want to take a minute to focus on the young people. And you know, in my new role as advocacy and policy director for the Young Democrats of America, I have a lot of work in messaging how Democrats talk to young people and how progressives talk to young people. And I think the most important thing to understand is that what young people care about is two things. They care about a college education and they care about jobs. And President Obama has been very clear on both of those positions. In the American Jobs Act, the president has not only built in a summer youth work program to the part of the piece of legislation, but he's also created measures so we can revitalize our roads, revitalize our schools, and, you know, and a 50% tax cut for the payroll tax. So these are all things that young people will be excited about. I think the key for the president is to get this bill to the floor of the House of Representatives and the Senate and get them to vote on this bill. Even if the House, even if we know the House might not vote on this bill, the key is to get it into hearing. So the president can say, I'm moving forward, and this is where the GOP has blocked my jobs measure.
You mean on the jobs? Okay, but the thing is, it's one thing to get it moving. It's another thing to get people back to work. And Carrie, I want to let you weigh in here, because it seems to me that the youth vote is pretty astute at this point, particularly when they're spending all this money on education. They're coming out, they're having trouble finding employment. And correct me if I'm wrong, I remember early on, whether it was on the campaign trail or when he was in office, that the president said every American who wants a college education will get it. Did that happen?
It sure doesn't seem like it. And remember, the health care bill was supposed to have a whole lot of freebies when it came to the student loans. Remember, they actually sort of pushed that through last minute. And I don't see why a lot of students at this point are actually still complaining, because I thought they actually got those freebies through the health care bill. That being said, though, as far as students are concerned, as far as the youth vote is concerned, why is it now that they should be rallying for Barack Obama when a number of them who are graduating cannot find jobs?
Well, what can Barack Obama brag about when it comes to the youth vote? Well, on the campaign trail for re-election, what can he say, I did this for you?
Well, it is. I would say he's going to have a very tough time doing that, because remember, he was the youthful candidate back in 2008. He was the cool guy. He was the hip guy. You know, he's no longer the bright, shiny object. Very similar to what people are looking at with a lot of the candidates who haven't jumped in yet. That a lot of people saw back then. He's sort of just a fad at this point to a lot of these youth voters.
Richard, if you were writing the talking points for a speech on a college campus, what would you tell the president he should remind students and faculty, for that matter, who I seem to feel, and based on the research I've read, faculty are a little more conservative at this point than people would believe. Used to be that professors were very liberal. What should he talk about?
There's three things the president needs to talk about when talking to young people. The first thing the president needs to talk about is that he was the one that allowed them to go back on their parents' health care insurance when the insurance companies were taking them off at the age of 21 or 22. Now they can stay on their parents' health care until the age of 24. The second thing the president needs to talk about is that he has continuously, him and members of the House, Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, have stood up to Republicans as they continue to make cuts to Pell Grants and student loan programs. In the Health Care Act, part of the health care provision was the SAFRA bill, which was the student financing portion of the Health Care Act. And what that bill did is it got all the big banks out of the business of student loans, and it made the government responsible for implementing student loans and collecting student loans, making it easier for students to get student loans and access student loans. And that's the second thing the president needs to talk about. And the third thing the president needs to talk about is how he's working to create jobs in the economy right now. He needs to paint himself as a better alternative to any of the GOP candidates. That is what's key right now. The president needs to say, I'm the best alternative to these folks who don't believe in Pell Grants. They don't believe in government-backed student loans. They don't believe that everybody has the right to affordable education. They would rather privatize everything and make everything private, which is not the way we need to go for education. Education has to be a public investment in America's future.
But the problem, though, as far as the Pell Grants are concerned, as far as putting more money into the schools very often, is that then once the schools get these Pell Grants, once the schools get the money from the government, they feel like they have to spend it very quickly because they know very well that if they don't, then they feel, oh my goodness, everything's going to be cut again. So they have to figure they have to spend so much of it to get more of it. And then what happens that, oh wow, the tuition rates hike right up again. So that is a huge concern. And where does that money go to? It goes to the salaries of the administrators, it goes to the salaries of a lot of the professors, and it also goes towards the pensions. And in the end, it's very often that we're seeing that the students end up getting shafted.
I think not at all. Not at all. See, what the Pell Grant is the Pell Grant is based upon how much a student earns or how much a student's parent earn. That money goes directly to that student's education. It's a voucher that allows the student to spend on education funding. So that means as long as at the beginning of the school year when you come and you have a certain amount for a Pell Grant, that Pell Grant lasts you for the whole school year. It doesn't run out. The only way that Pell Grant runs out is if we had passed H.R. 1 or Paul Ryan's budget bill, which would have cut Pell Grants in the middle of the school year. And the president and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid stood up against that.
All right, I have to leave it there, Richard. I want to thank you so much for joining us. You know how much I enjoy hearing your insight. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Have a great day, and I hope you'll watch our interview with Herman Cain. That's coming up just